Hello everyone. I'm really glad that you're back with the channel. After everything that Jack and Tien have been through together. After days when every decision felt difficult. After moments when even the slightest delay could have caused everything to spiral in an unwanted direction. In the end, life has slowly returned to a more familiar rhythm. There are no longer overwhelming pressures like before. No more choices that exhaust the mind. Everything seems to be gradually stabilizing. Jack's work has started to show positive signs. Not a dramatic change. Not a sudden turning point. Just small improvements. But enough to make things feel more reassuring. The construction site is no longer left unfinished. Work has resumed. Plans that were once interrupted are now being put back on track. The debt is no longer a burden without a way out. Although it cannot be resolved immediately. At least, there is now a direction. There is a way forward. And more importantly, they no longer feel hopeless. Peaceful days. Simple moments that once seemed ordinary. Like sharing a meal together. Talking after a long day. Or just sitting side by side. Without needing to say much. Have finally returned. Those small things might have once gone unnoticed. But after everything, they have become the most precious. Because peace is not something people can always hold on to. And good things do not always stay forever. But sometimes, right in the moments when everything seems stable, when people begin to breathe a sigh of relief, that's when challenges quietly appear. No noise. No warning. No time to prepare. Just a very small change. But enough to disrupt everything. One morning, everything seemed normal. Jack woke up. Got ready for work. Nothing felt unusual. But then, a phone call came. Not from a partner. Not from the company. Not related to work. But from the hospital. A call that was never expected. A call that made all the thoughts in Jack's mind freeze for a few seconds. The result of his earlier health check had an issue. Just a short sentence. But it carried so many things he couldn't fully comprehend yet. At first, Jack said nothing. He didn't share it with anyone. Especially not with Tien. He kept everything the same. He lived as usual. Went to work on time. Handled his tasks. Maintained familiar conversations. And above all, he still smiled. A smile no different from before. A smile convincing enough to make others believe everything was fine. But only he knew. Behind that normality was an unnamed fear. Unclear. Undefined. But always present. Lingering. And persistent. In moments alone. When no one was around. When he no longer had to keep up appearances. The thoughts began to surface. Not clear thoughts. But assumptions. Possibilities. He didn't want to think about. He was afraid. Not for himself. But for someone else. For Tien. He knew. If something were to go wrong, the one most affected would not be him. It would be her. He didn't want her to worry. Didn't want her to carry any more pressure. Didn't want the peace they had just regained to become heavy again. So, he chose silence. Chose to keep everything to himself. Chose to continue as if nothing had happened. But some things, no matter how hard you try, cannot be hidden forever. Not because someone is trying to uncover them, Not because there is suspicion, but simply because the truth always finds a way to appear. One time, in a very ordinary moment, when nothing seemed out of place, Jack accidentally left behind his medical report. A piece of paper he had tried so hard to keep hidden. A piece of paper he never wanted anyone to see. But then, Tien saw it. There was no dramatic reaction. No panic. No barrage of questions. She just stood there, silent, looking at what was in front of her. She didn't speak immediately, didn't show her emotions clearly. But that silence made everything feel heavier. Because sometimes, it's not words, but the eyes that make it impossible to keep hiding. Tien's gaze was not blame, not anger, but something hard to describe. A concern, held back, a care that didn't need to be spoken, and also a question that didn't need words. Just by looking at it, Jack understood. He could no longer remain silent. That evening, there was no longer the prolonged silence like before. No more thoughts kept to oneself. No more things hidden just to make everything seem normal. Jack chose to say everything. No hesitation. No avoidance. No attempt to downplay the situation. What he knew. What he was thinking. What he was worried about. Everything was spoken clearly. No more. No less. No hiding. No more vague answers. No more it's okay just to brush things off. But the truth, placed between the two of them. And for the first time, the one who always appeared strong. Always the one others leaned on. Always the one who carried more than he said. Admitted something he had never shown before. I'm scared. A very short sentence. But it carried so much behind it. Not a vague fear. Not a passing worry. But something very real. Something he had kept inside all this time. He wasn't afraid of the illness. Not afraid of pain. Not afraid of what might happen to himself. What he feared was somewhere else. He feared if something didn't go as hoped. If something went beyond control. He wouldn't be able to stay by her side. Couldn't be there. Like on normal days. Couldn't take care of her the way he always had. Couldn't continue with her on the road ahead. It wasn't a dramatic statement. Not something intense. But enough to make everything fall silent. Tien listened. Without reacting immediately. Without interrupting. Without questioning. Without trying to comfort him with familiar words. She just stood there. Listening. Taking in everything Jack had said. Not rushed. Not impatient. Not letting emotions show too clearly. Then she stepped closer. No distance. No hesitation. Just a very natural action. A gentle hug. Not too tight. But enough for Jack to feel it. No explanation needed. No extra words required. That alone was enough. Then she spoke. A very simple sentence. Not long. Not complicated. Not the usual kind of reassurance. Then we'll face it together. Not you deal with it. Not everything will be fine. Not words meant to lighten the situation. But one word. We. A small word. But one that changed everything. No longer just one person. No longer facing it alone. No more silent endurance. But two people. Together. On the same side. But to them, everything seemed slower. No one spoke. No need to speak. Just glances. Occasionally meeting. Not to ask. Not to answer. But to confirm that they were still there. Together. In that moment. Then the door opened. A very brief moment. But stretched in feeling. As if all the surrounding sounds disappeared. No footsteps. No conversations. Nothing else. Only what was about to be said. The doctor looked at them. Unhurried. Without creating tension. Then slowly spoke. It wasn't something serious. Not a frightening result. Not what they had feared all this time. Just signs of exhaustion. Just the result of prolonged stress. No complicated treatment needed. Just rest. Just proper care. Just giving the body time to recover. In that moment, there was no immediate reaction. Jack said nothing. Didn't ask more. Didn't show strong emotion. Just a breath. A very deep breath. As if everything he had held inside all that time was finally released. No more heaviness. No more pressure. No more uncertainty. Now there was an answer. Beside him, Tien was still there. Unmoved. Not saying much. Just smiling. A very gentle smile. Not loud. Not overly expressive. But her eyes couldn't hide it. A slight shimmer. Not weakness. Not loss of control. But because, after everything, all they had worried about, all they had faced together, finally, they could breathe again. After that day, everything was no longer the same. Not because life had changed drastically. Not because circumstances suddenly became different. But because the way Jack saw everything was no longer the same. He no longer kept a tough exterior like before. No longer forced himself to appear as if everything was fine. No longer placed too much responsibility on his shoulders. Only to silently endure it alone. What had happened did not make him weaker. Instead, it made him realize that there are things he doesn't have to carry alone. There are pressures that don't need to be kept in silence. And there are emotions that don't need to be hidden. He began to learn how to share. Not to say everything, but to know when to open up. To know when to let the person beside him understand with him. There were no longer long silences like before. No more thoughts locked inside. Everything became lighter. Not because the problems disappeared, but because he no longer had to face them alone. He also learned how to rest. No longer throwing himself into work as a way to escape. No longer forcing himself to do more, just to prove that he was okay. He learned to pause. To listen to his body. To understand that sometimes slowing down is the way to go further. And more importantly, he began to realize something that he might never have noticed before. What he has now is not something guaranteed. Not something that will always be there. But something that needs to be cherished. Every small moment. Every simple conversation. Every ordinary meal. All of it now carried a different meaning. No longer just normal things, but something valuable. One afternoon. Nothing too different from other days. No special event. Nothing that stood out. Just the two of them. Going home together. No rush. No pressure. No feeling of chasing time anymore. Their steps slowed down. Lighter. Not because of exhaustion, but because there was no reason to hurry. The familiar road. But the feeling was different. No more overwhelming thoughts. No more unresolved worries. Just a quietness. Enough to truly feel. Tien was still the same. Not changing much. Not doing anything extraordinary. She simply mentioned bamboo shoots. A familiar dish. Something very simple. Not a special meal. Not anything luxurious. Just a dish. They had eaten many times before. But this time, its meaning was different. Not just about eating. Not just a daily habit. But a feeling. A very clear feeling. After everything that had happened. After days when everything felt heavy. After moments of uncertainty. Now. They were still here. Nothing lost. Nothing broken. Not facing the worst outcome. Still whole. Still together. Still able to sit down. To share a meal. To talk about simple things. Nothing grand. Nothing extraordinary. Just that. Was enough. And perhaps, after everything, what makes people feel happiest is not a life without difficulties. Not everything going the way they want. Not never having to face challenges. But, even when difficulties arise, even when it feels impossible to continue, there is still someone by your side. Not leaving. Not letting go. Not turning away. But staying there. Holding your hand. Walking forward together. Not because things are easy, but because they choose to stay. And that is what makes every challenge possible to overcome. Not because hardships disappear, but because there is someone to face them with you. And what about you? After following this story, how do you feel? Have you ever experienced a moment where just having someone beside you made everything feel lighter? Do you believe that? It's not circumstances that decide everything, but the person walking beside you that truly matters most? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Who knows? Your story might become inspiration for someone else. And if you found meaning in what was shared, don't forget to leave a like. Share it so more people can watch. And subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next stories. Thank you for watching. See you in the next videos.
Chào mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đang tranh thủ để làm video vì hôm nay mình bận một số việc cá nhân. Chắc là mình sẽ lên video chậm hơn hàng ngày mọi người ạ. Do hôm nay mình bận chút việc cá nhân. Và phải nói là từ đợt nghỉ Tết đến giờ mình không có tập trung làm việc được luôn. Tại vì cứ liên tục chạy đi chạy lại hết công việc này đến công việc khác khiến cho mình không thể tập trung, và mình cảm thấy là khi mà mình không tập trung thì mình làm việc cũng không được hiệu quả cho lắm. Bây giờ thì mình đang hoàn thành các bước để có thể làm xong video. Video này thì chắc mình sẽ đăng tải vào ngày 3 tháng 4. Cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi và ủng hộ cho video của mình nhé.
Not overly expressive, but her eyes.
Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại trong video sau.